French fries are hard. There's thousands of different methods out there that people have come up with that involve just about every permutation of boiling, freezing, brining, roasting, and frying that you could think of. But in my opinion, they just never seem to be quite right. But you know who does kind of have it right? McDonald's. Credit where credit's due, McDonald's knows how to make French fries. I recently came across an imitation recipe that claims to be as close to their original formula as possible, so I had to give it a shot. I'll link the recipe in the description. It's supposed to replicate the pre-1990 fries when they were still using beef tallow. Now, if you're anything like me, you were born after 1990, so you never had these fries either, but they claim to be the stuff legends are made of, so they ought to be good either way. The first step today is to make my marinade? I don't know if you could call it that. It's just a dilute sugar syrup that we're going to soak the potatoes in. It calls for a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. Why the corn syrup? Honestly, I think it's probably because corn syrup is cheap and can extend your sugar supply. In this context, I'm not sure if there's a culinary reason for it, but if you can think of one, let me know. I'm going to dissolve all that in 2 cups of hot water. You can use cold water, but the hot water just makes everything dissolve a lot faster. Once the mixture is clear again, I'm going to toss this in the freezer to cool down as fast as possible while I prep my potatoes. When it comes to homemade fries, there's usually only one choice of potato available in most supermarkets, and that is the humble russet. Russets have a higher starch content than something like a red potato or a Yukon Gold, and that starch is what's going to help the exterior of the fries crisp up and also keep the interior nice and fluffy. Once I get these peeled and give them a quick rinse, I'm going to cut these into roughly 1/4 inch thick matchsticks. If you need a reference point for the size you're shooting for, imagine a McDonald's French fry. There, those look good to me. They're not perfect, but they're close enough. If you desire more precision, you can use something like a mandolin for this job, but the hand-cut kind is good enough for me. By now, my sugar solution should be cool enough, really as long as it's not so hot that it's going to start cooking my potatoes, it should be fine. So now I'm going to put all my potatoes in, making sure to separate anything that's stuck together and making sure everything is as submerged as possible. And now these are going to go in the fridge for 30 minutes. While those soak, let me go ahead and get my frying fat ready. This recipe is very specific in terms of ingredients and amounts, so I'm going to try to be as precise as possible. It's going to start with a 1/4 cup of beef fat. If you can find already rendered beef fat at your local store, it's probably best to just use that. I couldn't find any though, so I rendered this myself from some ground chuck. That's why there's some gelatinized solids in there. I'm just going to do my best to work around that stuff. After that goes 6 cups of Crisco. You may be wondering, hey Chris, what's your opinion of Crisco? I'm so glad you asked. I do not like it one bit and would not choose to work with it if it were not in this recipe. I know they got rid of the trans fats or whatever, but I guess I'm still not convinced that it's good for you. And besides that, I just think it's kind of gross and unpleasant to work with. But anyways, I'll be brave and do it for accuracy's sake, but you do you. Now, here comes a really important step, so make sure you pay attention here. What you're gonna want to do is reread the recipe and realize that the beef fat is only supposed to go in after the first fry. So, using your disgusting little fingers, you're going to want to dig around in there to try and pull that tallow out, making sure to ask yourself many questions, such as, why am I doing this? And why do I have a 4th grade reading comprehension? Anyways, once you get that all out, go ahead and go soak in the tub or something while we wait for the 30 minutes to be up on our sugary potatoes. I'm going to drain these and then lay them out on some paper towels to try and dry them off the best I can. Frying wet things is a great idea if you want to start a grease fire, so do your best to get these dry. In the meanwhile, let's start heating up our fat. The recipe says to heat this on full blast until it comes up to somewhere between 375 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, at which point we can drop our fries in. Make sure you do this in a reasonably tall vessel because it's bound to bubble up and scare you at least a little bit. This first fry is going to be for 60 to 90 seconds, really just long enough to start forming that crispy shell on the outside of the fries. I was actually kind of surprised at how resilient these were while I was trying to keep them moving in there. I was afraid they were all just going to break, but really only a couple did. So once my 60 to 90 seconds are up, I'm going to get these out onto some paper towels, and I'm going to try to get them into a single layer so that they can drain and cool evenly. And then they're going to go in the fridge for 8 to 10 minutes. Maybe this cool down step helps the starch on the outside gelatinize so the fries get crispier in the end? Not really sure, but either way, now is when you're going to want to add the beef fat. So, After 8 to 10 minutes, and once our frying fat is back up to that 375 to 400 degree Fahrenheit window, it's time for fry number 2. This time we're gonna go a little longer, around 5 to 7 minutes. As with the first fry, it's good to keep things moving pretty frequently so the fries don't stick to each other or to the bottom of the pot where they could burn. I would say what's more important than the time on this second fry is the color you get on the fries. I feel like McDonald's fries are kind of pale, probably close to what you're seeing there, but I do think you'll get a better flavor and texture if you let these keep going a little while longer, so it's okay for them to get a little darker than you would initially expect. After 6 minutes, this is what mine looked like, and I'm going to call those done. So to finish these off, I've got a comically large bowl that I've lined with paper towels. I just got this bowl like a week ago, and I've already found like 5 reasons to use it. Big fan of the comically large bowl, and I think everyone should have at least one. Way more useful than you would think. I like to give those a little swish around on the paper towel to wick away some of that excess oil, and then I'll hit those with a very generous pinch of kosher salt. At this point, hearing how crispy they sounded in the bowl got me very excited. Onto a plate with those, and now the only other thing we need is some ketchup, and those fries are done. Okay, let me tell you, these are easily the best fries that I've ever made myself. But are they exactly like the McDonald's fries of old? Well, I don't know, I wasn't there, so I couldn't be sure. But they are very reminiscent of the fast food fries I've had in my lifetime. They're almost like somewhere between a current day McDonald's fry and like maybe a Five Guys fry. The texture is spot on. We got that crisp exterior and fluffy interior. Really, really good and pretty straightforward to make compared to a lot of recipes out there. Have you tried this recipe before? Are you older than me? Do you remember the original McDonald's fries? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your opinions on these. Thanks.